Unit conversions. We're changing from one unit to another, inches to centimeters, pounds to ounces, cups to tablespoons. Anytime you have a problem like that, you need a conversion factor to help you solve it, right? The conversion factor is something like 1 mile equals 1.6 kilometers. And when we use that in a problem, we sometimes will write it as 1 mile over 1.6 kilometers. Notice this is a fraction that's equal to 1 because 1 mile and 1.6 kilometers are equivalent values. So this is the same as 5 divided by 5. This is a big invisible 1 right here. And we can also write it the other way, 1.6 kilometers over 1 mile. We're going to use different versions depending on what we're doing. What you want to think about in a problem, for example, this one here. Our recipe calls for 2 cups of flour, but I only have a tablespoon measure. I must be unpacking from a move. Oh dear. I need a conversion factor. So I need to know for every cup how many tablespoons are there, or for every tablespoon how many cups are there. And that's what I'm going to use in order to solve the problem. Now, the place we often get tripped up is if we know, for example, that 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. What we don't always know is, do I multiply by 1.6 or do I divide by 1.6? So I'm going to show you how to set up these problems so that you don't have to think about that question. But let's look at an example really quick. If we have a distance of 1 mile, down here I can fit more kilometers into it, right? 1.6 is bigger than 1. So in the same distance, I have more kilometers. That's because the kilometer is a smaller unit, so I can fit more of them into the same distance. Similarly, if we're thinking about tablespoons and cups, it's not a distance anymore, but if we have 1 cup, it has 16 tablespoons in it. Spoiler alert, that's the conversion factor. Because a tablespoon is smaller than a cup, so I can fit 16 of them into the same volume of just 1 cup, right? So a smaller unit means you can fit more of them in it. That's going to be helpful as we go along. So here's our example. How many tablespoons are there in 3 cups? And we have a few helpful unit conversions here. So we're starting with cups, which is the bigger unit. A cup is bigger than a tablespoon. That means when you're fitting those smaller things in, you're going to have way more of them. So I know since my conversion factor was 16 to a cup, I need to multiply by those 16 tablespoons per 1 cup. And that is going to give me my 48 tablespoons in 3 cups. If I divided, I would end up with an answer smaller than 3. And there's no way that there are fewer tablespoons than there are cups in the same volume, right? Because a tablespoon is smaller than a cup. You can fit more of them in. All right. How many tablespoons are in a pint? So we're starting with 1 pint. And I don't have a direct pint to tablespoons conversion. So I'm going to go through cups first because I know that 1 pint is 2 cups, and then I know how to get cups to tablespoons. So 1 pint, that's the bigger unit, is going to have to get multiplied by 2 because I can fit more of those smaller cups inside a pint. And now I'm at cups and I want to get to tablespoons. Since a tablespoon is smaller, I can fit more of them in. I'm going to multiply by 16 tablespoons per cup. And now I can just multiply these right across. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 16 is 32 tablespoons. Now, that same way we just thought about it, if that made sense to you that we should be multiplying because we're going from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, you can stick with it that way. I'm going to explain it one more way in case it's helpful. So we start with a pint. Remember how if you had a fraction like this, 2 times 5 divided by 2. Those 2's can cancel each other out because 2 divided by 2 is that big invisible 1, right? It doesn't change the value of my fraction. So the same number on the top and the bottom when I'm multiplying, they get canceled right out. We're using that same idea to determine how we're using our conversion factors. So I'm starting with pints. I know I want to get to tablespoons at the end. Right now I have pints to cups. Thinking about this idea here, how 2 and 2 cancel each other out. Right now I have pints on the top of my fraction, as it were. Since we don't have a bottom, the bottom's just 1. So that means I want to make sure I have pints in the bottom of my fraction here. So pints and cups, and now I can put my numbers and I know there's 1 pint to 2 cups. We already know this answer, right? I'm just solving it a different way to show. So now pints cancels with pints, and we are now measuring in cups. To go to tablespoons, I know I want to cancel out cups. So cups is on the top. I'm going to put cups for my conversion factor in the bottom. So every 1 cup is 16 tablespoons. And now I double check, can cups cancel? Yes, cups with cups. And I'm left with my answer just in tablespoons. Either way you do it is fine, as long as you know you're doing the right way for you. How many teaspoons are there in a quarter cup? All right, so we're starting with a quarter cup. I need to get to teaspoons. Right now I only know how to get to tablespoons, so I'm going to do that first. So, quarter cup to a tablespoon. Since we're going from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, I can fit more of them. So I'm going to be multiplying by 16. And now that I'm in tablespoons, notice cups cancels with cups, I need to do my teaspoons. I want to cancel out tablespoons, so I'm going to put tablespoons on the bottom. Or I can think I'm going from a tablespoon that's bigger to a teaspoon that's smaller, so I can fit more of them in, so I should multiply. So careful, 1 times 16 times 3 is 48 on the top, and 4 times 1 times 1 on the bottom is 4. And then when I simplify that out, I'm going to get 12 teaspoons. All right, a couple more practice. The recipe calls for 7/8 of a cup of sugar. This is from my real life, but I don't have any 1/8 cup measures. How many tablespoons is 7/8 of a cup? So I have 7/8 of a cup. I know that 16 tablespoons is 1 cup. So that's my conversion I'm going to use. Since I'm going from a cup that's bigger to a tablespoon that's smaller, I can fit way more of them. So my number should be getting bigger. 16 tablespoons per 1 cup. And we go ahead and solve. On the top, 7 times 16 is 112. On the bottom, 8 times 1 is 8. And when we simplify that out, 112 divided by 8 should give us 14 tablespoons. On vacation in Mexico, I drove 120 kilometers per hour. 120 kilometers to every 1 hour. And I would like to know what that is in miles per hour. My conversion factor I know is 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. So a kilometer is smaller, we can fit more of them. So if I'm going from the smaller unit to the bigger one, miles, I need to be dividing by 1.6. I can't fit as many miles into the same distance as I can kilometers. So I'm dividing by 1.6. It's going on the bottom. Remember that line in a fraction means divide. Or I can just notice, oh, how lovely. My kilometers and kilometers are going to cancel together, and I'll be back at miles per hour. In this guy, I've got 120 divided by 1.6. And if you do that in your calculator, you're going to get up with 270 miles per hour. I thought I was really speeding. 70 is not that bad. For my pre-nursing students, we have to calculate dosage for a medication for a patient. And of course, in order to do that, we have to have their weight in kilograms instead of pounds. Now, in real life, like you would just click units on the scale and you would just get it in kilograms. But stick with me. We've got a patient that is 174 pounds. My unit conversion is that every kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So I can fit more pounds than kilograms in the same mass. All right. So since I'm going 2 kilograms, I'm going to have fewer of them in the same amount. So I'm going to be dividing by that 2.2. Or we're just noticing pounds and pounds cancel, so they're on the bottom. And now I'm going to divide this out. It's just 174 divided by 2.2. Our trusty old calculator gives us about 79 kilograms. Now, hopefully, we can calculate the dosage for that med. All right, complicated problem. We need 3 cups of pecans, but we only have a scale. How many grams of pecans do we need? So we're looking at these nutrition facts here, and you will notice that 1 cup volume is about 99 grams mass weight. So that is my unit conversion factor. What I need is 3 cups. And I know that for every 1 cup, there are 99 grams. Double checking. Oh, how nice. Cups cancels with cups. We're going to multiply those guys out. I need 297 grams. Follow-up question. How many pounds does she need? Now I have to turn grams into pounds. So I'm going to need to know how many grams there are per pound. My unit conversion doesn't have that. What I do know is that 1 ounce is 28.35 grams. And I do know that 1 pound is 16 ounces. So we're going to go 2 steps through to pounds. 297 grams. Now we're going to take grams to ounces. You can fit way more grams than ounces because grams are just smaller, that we can pack more of them in. So we're dividing by 28.35. Is that the number? I feel like it's 4 or 5 now per ounce. And then to go from ounces to pounds, since I had ounces on the top here, I want to make sure I have ounces on the bottom down here. Dividing by 16 ounces gets us to our 1 pound. And our handy dandy calculator tells us like it's about, oh, pen changed, 0.65 pounds. Notice 297 grams, smaller grams, we fit tons of them in. Only 0.65 pounds because a pound is much larger than a gram. You can't fit as many in the same volume. You will also see mixed units of measurement. And really, we use these every day with time, right? Normally, when you're adding decimals, let's say you have 7.4 plus 3.8. When you add that 0.4 and 0.8 together and you get 12 from adding 4 and 8, you have to carry that 10 to the next place, right? So we say 2 and we carry this 1 up here. In many units of measurement that are not base 10, we don't carry up until we get to a different number. So when we do this with hours and minutes, we know there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So we're not going to carry over until we get to 60. So if you, for example, you had 2 tests to take, and one you were allowed 2 hours and 25 minutes, and the other was allowed 1 hour and 45 minutes. And you're like, okay, well, how much time do I need all together? When we add these up and we get 70 minutes, that's telling us I need to carry over an hour because 70 minutes is more than an hour, right? So we've got these 3 hours and 70 minutes, which is not the way we normally say this. So we're going to take away 60 minutes here to carry that hour over here, and we're at 4 hours and 10 minutes. If the way I did that didn't make sense, but you're like, yes, I can add 25 minutes and 45 minutes, that's okay. You don't have to do it the way I do it, right? And the other thing is, if you think about 2 hours, 25 minutes, and you wanted to say that just as hours, that's going to be 2 and 25 sixtieths of an hour, right? Because 60 minutes would make our whole hour. So 25 minutes, it's not 0.25 minutes, right? Or 0.25 hours. 25 minutes is 25 sixtieths. It's almost half of an hour, right? So it couldn't be 2.25. That would only be a quarter of an hour, which we know is 15 minutes. With pounds, since there are 16 ounces in a pound, 1 pound, 3 ounces is the same as saying 1 3/16 of a pound. If you were adding these guys together and you had like 1 pound, 3 ounces and 4 pounds, 15 ounces. So it's really almost 16 pounds. When you add these together and you get 18, you're going to have to carry a pound over, right? So we're going to carry 1 pound over there, 1 pound, which is 16 ounces. And that leaves me 6 pounds and only these 2 little ounces left over. Sorry, this is harder to read. So just look out when you have those mixed units of measurement. They don't borrow in the same way that base 10 does. Our last one is just a cheat sheet. I have it posted in our class, but you can also just screenshot this right now and save it forever.